Welcome to Discovering You, a podcast that explores the intricacies of personality and how it impacts the way we navigate through life. What will you discover today? Hi, listeners. Hi, Heather.
Hi there.
How are you today?
Well, good question. I am in the red today,
Oh,
and my word is anxious. Worried and uneasy about an uncertain outcome.
do you want to share?
Yeah, I just have a sick dog. I'm not overly worried about him, but more worried than I want to be.
Yeah,
He'll probably be fine, but it's that I hate when they're uncomfortable or not feeling well.
especially with an animal because you can't really talk to them and explain it to them. They can't tell you either.
He's sleeping on the couch right now and he seems comfortable.
Good. Well, I'm sending good vibes for you and Boomer.
Thank you. How are you feeling today?
For me, I am in the yellow today. And the word I got is interesting. So it's a word I don't like. It's a bit of a pet peeve. But anyway, it best explained it. The word I got was productive. Never chosen that before. And productive means feeling like you are accomplishing your tasks or achieving your goals. I don't know so much about achieving my goals, but I did feel like I accomplished some tasks. Like, you have things you're like, I got to do that, I got to do that. So yesterday was a pretty good day for that and just a bunch of stuff going on and I'm doing it. But I feel like productive is a very high D word. And there's kind of a joke in our family because this honestly is Chris's favorite question to ask. How was your day? Did you have a productive day? And it just, it's a pet peeve because it's very high D. That's bottom line. What's the result? How did you feel? Was there something really enjoyable in your day or what have you, right? Sophie and I usually have a little bit of laugh at the word productive. So I think it's very ironic that I chose it, but there you have it.
I think I could get on board with Chris. I think I ask myself that every day. How many things did I get done today?
That's
Not
your
like,
D.
were they great? Were they fun? Were they joyful?
Yeah, that's your D. Today, we're going to be exploring something that is probably the most requested topic for me to do. I've been putting it off because it's so extensive and so much to cover. But I reminded myself that I don't need to write a master's thesis on it. I just need to provide an easily digestible overview. Before I jump into that, did you know that National Mani-Pedi Day is this month? I thought it would be fun to do disc as manicure styles. High D is stiletto, sharp and to the point. High I is ballerina, fashionable and popular. High S is almond, subtle and refined. High C is square, symmetrical and exact. Did you know about all these styles, Heather?
I was aware of a couple, but no, I did have to think about it when I was reading it.
Do you have a favorite style?
What's funny, I looked at my nails and I was like, what is nothing? No manicure whatsoever. It's not my preferred style, but it is my typical style.
Oh, that's funny. I know this is audio, but for the listeners, I'm holding my nails up. Square is mine. So when it comes to nails, I guess my high C is in control. I do like them short and square, but my favorite color is pink, which I also have right now. I'm disc neutral on that because pink is not a disc color. All right, back to today's topic. When people think of personality tests and quizzes, assessments, this is often the first one that comes to mind. For those of you who are thinking it's DISC, and I often refer to DISC as personality for the sake of simplicity, but to be fully precise, DISC is actually behavioral. It is trait-based, and it dominates the psychometric field for its ability to be predictive and practical for the workplace. And that's why it's the best tool, in my opinion, for that. But for personal life and further introspection, today's one is more type-based. Have you figured it out yet? It's Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs and DISC were birthed at similar times, the 1920s, when there was an explosion of interest and study into human behavior. There's a fascinating book on this that I read probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's called The Personality Brokers. Again, if you're into this stuff at all, it's a fascinating read. You could check it out. Going forward, I'll probably intersperse MB, acronym for ease, when I'm referring to Myers-Briggs. That name comes from a mother-daughter duo. It was Catherine Briggs and Isabel Myers. And they implemented Carl Jung's theories, specifically the introversion extroversion, and they turned it into a usable personality assessment model. Have you ever heard someone rattle off a bunch of letters and wonder what they're talking about? For instance, oh, I'm an ESTP. And you're thinking, what? I've always been amazed that people can remember their combo of letters. So, what the heck does this mean? It's referring to that person's MB, Myers-Briggs, type. The 4 letters represent different personality aspects, which are energy, mind, nature, and tactics. Let's dig in. First, we have energy. Right out of the gates, this is the introversion extroversion piece taken from Jungian theory. How we interact with our surroundings. So, do you gain energy from being around others or recharge by being by yourself? And of course, now there's a mid ground that we know about, which is ambiversion, where you can be a bit of both. To our loyal listeners, you'll know we talk about this a lot. If you want to check it out, episode 4, I talked about reframing introversion. There's a lot on there. But in the example I gave earlier, the person saying that they were an ESTP, the E stands for extrovert. And if it was the first letter, I, it would represent introvert. The next personality aspect is mind. This looks at how we view the world and process information. Observant people are highly practical and pragmatic. They have strong habits and focus on what's happening or already happened. Intuitive people are imaginative, open-minded, and curious. They prefer novelty over stability, and they focus on hidden meanings and future possibilities. The second letter in the acronym will either be the S, taken from the S in observant, or the N, taken from intuitive. The third aspect is nature. This is about how we make decisions and cope with emotions. Thinking individuals focus on objectivity and rationality and prioritize logic over emotions. They tend to hide their feelings and see efficiency as more important than cooperation. Feeling individuals are sensitive and emotionally expressive. They are more empathic and less competitive than thinking types, with a focus on social harmony and cooperation. And this is the correlation to the third letter in the acronym. It will either be a T for thinking or an F for feeling. And the fourth category is tactics, which reflects our approach to work, planning, and decision making. Judging individuals are decisive, thorough, and organized. They prefer structure and planning over spontaneity. Prospecting people are good at improvising and spotting opportunities. They tend to be flexible and nonconformist. The fourth letter of the MB acronym will either be J for judging or P for prospecting. Depending on which assessment type you do, there can be a fifth category, but I'm going to stick with the original 4 here. The one I used is called 16personalities.com. This is a combo of Myers-Briggs and the Big 5 personality tool, and we will share a link to this in the show notes if you want to do it yourself. But to give you a taste of what the assessment is like, here are 5 sample questions. As with other questionnaires, there's a 7-point scale. 1 is totally agree, and 7 is totally disagree. Are you ready to try it, Heather?
Of course.
Number 1, you can easily connect with people you just met. Your options to answer this: you completely agree, you mostly agree, somewhat agree, you're neutral, you somewhat disagree, you mostly disagree, or you completely disagree. For me, I answered somewhat disagree. I think this is the introvert-extrovert piece of the equation. My connections and relationships develop more slowly. But if the other person that I'm meeting is a fellow introvert, ambivert, and we get into a deep meaning of life conversation, there will be an immediate connection. How about you, Heather?
I put somewhat disagree, and I think there was a time I was mostly disagree.
Okay.
My husband always says, he's like, you like everybody right out of the gates, and then later you decide you don't like them.
Oh, interesting.
Or you do. I got to thinking about that, and he's not wrong. Like, I get intrigued by the first conversation, and then I'm like, meh, wah, wah. Anyways, that's a long way to get to. I put somewhat disagree.
We answered the same thing on that. That's interesting. I didn't know that about you. If anything, I would tend to be the opposite.
There was a time I was different, and we've talked about this before. You can't really have your own business and not at least be able to come out of the gates on a first conversation and be engaging and try to connect that way. And so I think there was a time when I didn't have to do that. I probably didn't.
Fair. That makes sense.
Anyways, carry on.
Okay. Number 2, your personal work style is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy than organized and consistent efforts. I answered mostly disagree. I could probably have picked completely disagree, but sometimes I do have that if I'm doing some kind of creative process. So maybe I have a creative bout and I'm like, oh, I got to go write this down so I don't forget it. That's about it. What about you?
I need to have a caveat on this question. And I know this isn't about my disc profile, but I feel like sometimes I'm all one way and other times I'm completely the other way. Right. And I don't know if it's the business I work in and that like things change so quickly that I have to have sudden spontaneous bursts. So, anyways, long story long, I picked neutral because I feel like I have consistent efforts, but also spontaneous bursts.
Okay. And I have to pick you up on something you said. I know this isn't about disc. Heather, everything is about disc. Come
And I
on,
always go back
look
to
at this show.
profile. The C in me is consistent efforts. This is how we build the business. This is how we build the podcast, like whatever that works on.
Yeah.
But then you need spontaneous bursts of creativity. How do we do it different? What can we leverage tech for?
Yes,
We have to be innovative too.
absolutely.
I think I'm both, but I don't know if neutral is the right answer when you're both.
Yeah, I think it is. That's what I do. I think it must be. Yeah.
If we're doing it, it must
If-
be right.
Right. Of course. Number 3, this is a doozy for me. You are still bothered by mistakes that you made a long time ago. I answered mostly agree. This is so annoying. And I know it plagues introverts and HSP. So this is basically, it could be at night and you're reliving things and things will just pop into your head from a while ago. And you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have done it this way, or I hate that. It's so annoying. But there you have it. How about you, Heather?
I also picked mostly agree.
I wonder how many people would pick this. This is really interesting to me.
I think it's an introvert thing for me, anyways, where I'm like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that, or they're going to think I'm dumb. Like in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like when you were younger and you had too many drinks and said things, and then you were like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
I don't need alcohol to have those things anymore.
Well, I also like that you said when you were younger. I'm surrounded still by people who aren't necessarily younger and still have that issue. Good old alcohol. It's not always the best plan.
No.
Number 4, if a decision feels right to you, you often act on it without needing further proof. This was a tough one for me to answer. And here's an example. I chose neutral because it was a tough one to answer. I think this is very nuanced because on one hand, I'm very rational. I need evidence and facts. I'm not spontaneous at all. But on the other hand, I do feel that I know certain things intuitively. Being an empath, feeling things is so strong. Yeah, you can see why I had to pick neutral, right? Yes, I need facts to make these types of decisions. But if I have this sort of deep sense of knowing, I'm just going to trust that.
That's interesting.
What do you think for that?
I put mostly agree. It probably depends on the level of risk involved in the decision. But for the most part, I'm like, meh, give it a try.
Right. Number 5 is you often feel overwhelmed. Oh boy. Story of my life. Yes, I mostly agree. What about you?
So I put somewhat agree, but I feel like mine is self-inflicted. I'm often overwhelmed, but it's because I take on too much, do too much.
Yeah, but I don't think that matters. Sure, could somebody go into why that's happening? But I think what it's getting at is, do you feel that way?
Yeah. So I put somewhat agree. I don't think I'm mostly overwhelmed.
But see, some people will take on a bunch of stuff and they're mostly okay with it. And then maybe it gets to a point and they get overwhelmed. Whereas for me, the overwhelm for me is so strong that I wouldn't even dream of taking on that much stuff because I just know.
Oh.
Yeah. So the overwhelming to me is not even doing it. It's even the thought of it is like, oh my God, no, how can I do all that?
Oh, then I want to change my answer.
Yeah,
I feel like I thrive on
I
too
know.
much.
I've noticed. But the point is you're still feeling it. I still think the point is you're still feeling it. So it's how you're experiencing it.
I'm going with my first answer because I think that's what you're supposed to do in these scenarios.
Yes,
Isn't that what you
exactly.
tell us to do?
Exactly. I do. Okay. And like speaking of overwhelming, with Myers-Briggs, there are 16 different types. That's daunting. And maybe you can see why I've been putting this one off. But I'm going to do my best to condense and simplify it. Within those 16 categories, There are 4 main categories, and within those, there are 4 subcategories. Don't worry, stay with me, I promise. The 4 main categories are analysts, diplomats, sentinels, and explorers. 4 categories. Can you guess what I'm going to compare this to? Let's start with analysts. These are the intuitive and thinking types, the second and third letters of the acronym, N and T. Analysts are fiercely independent, strong-willed, imaginative, and are more interested in what works than in what satisfies everybody. They are great strategic thinkers. So analysts remind me of a certain disc factor. High D. Dominance. Would you agree?
Yes.
Right? No brainer on that one. Okay, next is the diplomats. These are intuitive and feeling types, the I and the F in the acronym. Diplomats focus on empathy and cooperation. They often play the role of counselor and harmonizer in their workplace and social circles. They're warm, empathic, and influential individuals. Heather, do you want to guess which disc factor the diplomats align with?
At first, I thought I, because it says influential in
It does.
the description. But so I always think of high S as you. You're my avatar for it. And so when it said like counselor, harmonizer, empathic, I'm going with S, high S.
Okay, you are correct. I believe it's high S too. The third category is sentinels, and they're the observant and judging styles, the second and fourth letters. So this would either be your S or your J. Sentinels are highly practical, create order, meticulous, and traditional. They excel in logistical and administrative fields. They rely on rules and they stick to their plans. Which disc factor do you think this one is?
C.
You got it. And the fourth category is explorers. Again, we're looking at the second and fourth letters, but in this case, these are the observant and prospecting types, S or P. Explorers are the most spontaneous of these 4 groups, and they have the ability to connect with their surroundings in a way that others can't. They shine in situations where a quick reaction is required, and they have the ability to think on their feet. They are very persuasive, and they do well in sales. Of course, what is left here in our disc world? Here are our high Is. All right, Heather and I do not know each other's Myers-Briggs types. We promised we weren't going to share with each other. And we're going to try to make a prediction. We're going to give our reasons why. But then, as I said to you, there's so much to dig into here. So we're going to do a part 2 where I get into all those different subcategories. And then at the beginning of that episode, we're going to reveal what our actual types are. I'm going to go with my guess and my reasoning, okay? If I'm following my comparison that I just did to DISC, and if I look at your profile, Heather, which is that combination of high D and high C, I think that implies that you're either in the analyst or the sentinel category. I feel fairly confident I can guess your first letter. I guess I really wouldn't be paying attention if I couldn't do this. I'm going to guess your first letter is I for introverted. And then I think the last letter is J. I'm looking at Heather's face to see how I'm doing so far, but no, she's not giving me anything. She just kind of rolled her eyes or looked up to the ceiling or something to throw me off. For me, the second letter gave me the most trouble, Heather, because this is kind of conflicting. I can see cases for either with you, but I'm going to guess it's N, intuitive. And then the third letter, I'm saying T for thinking. My guess for your Myers-Briggs personality type is, I'm not going to attempt a drum roll. Those of you who heard my last one know it went really poorly. And Heather actually shamed me for it, just to be on the record.
And I would do it again.
That's why you scared me. I'm not even trying. So my guess for your Myers-Briggs personality type is INTJ. And that is known as the architect. And I'm going to delve into that more on part 2. And then my runner-up, follow-up guess for you, Heather, if that one isn't right, my second guess is an ISTJ, which is a logistician. That was a hard one. And again, that'll make more sense. Okay, we're not going to say But Heather, it's your turn to guess what you think mine is.
Okay. I first started trying to do it with the like high S, high C, high D.
Yep.
And then I got confused. So then I went back to the beginning. The first letter
Yeah.
is introvert. That I knew the answer. I introvert. Although I think you identify as an ambivert now, we're going with introvert.
Okay.
N for you, for intuitive, for the second letter, I went with because that makes sense to me for you. Third letter, again, yours seemed pretty simple for me. I don't know how close I am for this, but F for feeling, and then J for judging. So I have you as INFJ, although I
Okay.
don't know what that's called.
Yeah, we can get into that in part 2, but I believe that one is the diplomat, I believe. No, I think it's the advocate.
That's my guess for your letters. INFJ.
Okay. You heard it here. Listeners, if you want to write in, comment on the social media, might do a poll to take a guess and let us know. You've heard us, you know us chatting, you know our disc profiles, you know all kinds of stuff like that, our Enneagrams. If you want to make a prediction, I'd love to hear your ideas. And then again, join us next time as we're going to reveal what they are and see how well we predicted. And as well, I'm going to dive into what all those subcategories mean. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're interested in connecting with Victoria for team building, strategic onboarding, coaching, or a speaking engagement, you can contact her at discoverwhatworks@gmail.com.
This show is a Twisted Spur media production produced by our very own Heather McPherson. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.